Good morning. May I have your attention, please? Madam President, Commissioners, Port of LA executives, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. I'll be your Sergeant of Arms for today. If you could please listen to the instructions carefully and follow the directions of the uniformed personnel in case of an emergency. We will safely get you out of the facility if needed. I'm going to ask at this time to please silence all your electronic devices. If you need to have any conversations, please do so on the backside of the tent in order to limit the amount of noise that carries in this facility. One thing to know is that Commissioner Peruzzi is overseas, so he's going to be in this meeting, but telephonically. In order to be able to hear him, we're going to ask that please everybody remain as quiet as possible when it's time for his deliberation so he could be heard. So we appreciate everybody being here, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Good morning, all. Welcome. Today is the Los Angeles Board of Harbor Commissioners' continuation of the appeal process for the Level 1 Coastal Development Permit number 1825 appeal, Thursday, June 20th, 2019. We are now in open session. Our first item is a roll call. President Lee.
Here.
Commissioner Middleton.
Here.
Commissioner Moreno Linares.
Here.
Commissioner Peruzzi.
Here.
Commissioner Renwick.
Here.
We have secured a quorum.
Sorry, can we turn Anthony up a little bit, please? It's up. Okay, Commissioner Peruzzi, please speak as much into the phone directly as you can. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Port of Los Angeles. This is the continuation of the appeal process of the Level 1 Coastal Development Permit 1825 issued to APM Terminals. Before I get into what is expected here today, I would like to give you an update from Mayor Garcetti's office on the discussions between APM Terminals and ILWU Locals 1363 and 94. As you recall, this board recessed before deliberating and voting on the CDP in honor of the mayor's request to bring the parties together at City Hall to find a mutually agreeable path forward. The mayor's office reports that those discussions, which have occurred nearly continuously since late March, have been frank and productive. No matter the outcome of the vote today, the mayor is optimistic and all parties are committed to continue discussions around workforce training, safety, and manning as it pertains to the future work at Pier 400. I would also like to clarify as well that these discussions did not and cannot include any of the commissioners, so we have not been privy to the details of those discussions. Now I'd like to give a summary of our process to date. Through Level 1 CDP number 1825, APM Terminals seeks the installation of charging stations for equipment, installation of permanent scaffolding to create a vertical racking system for refrigerated containers, installation of traffic barriers and fencing for drayage hauler safety, installation of antenna poles, and compliance with engineering drawings for the project. After the CDP was issued by the executive director, it was initially agendized to be reported to the board on January 24th, 2019. However, upon request, the CDP was pulled from the January 24th meeting agenda on January 23rd. Subsequently, the CDP was placed on the February 21st agenda to be reported to the board. At this board meeting, members of the ILWU appealed the issuance of the CDP pursuant to the Port Master Plan, Section 6.3.2. In compliance with the Port Master Plan's appeal process and notice requirements, the appeal was set for March 21st, 2019. The sole issue of this appeal, per Master Plan Section 6.7.3, is whether or not the CDP was issued consistent with the Certified Port Master Plan and the California Coastal Act. The appeal hearing began on March 21st here in this building. The appeal's public hearing was opened, oral testimony and written materials were received. Both the applicant and the appellant were given equal opportunity to present their case. In addition, members of the public were all given equal opportunity to submit speaker cards and address the board. After all parties and members of the public had the opportunity to present evidence to the board in support of their respective positions, the public hearing was closed. The board has continued this appeal process until today pursuant to the mayor's request. Today we are here for deliberation by the board and a vote on the matter appealed. For the purpose of today's proceedings, there will be no further evidence taken here today as the public hearing was closed. Again, the board's focus today is exclusively upon deliberation and vote. Consequently, here are the guidelines. There will be no public comment. There will be no additional evidence accepted, meaning no oral testimony will be heard and no written materials will be accepted. The board members will not be asking any questions of either the appellant or the applicant to maintain the fundamental fairness of this appeal process. Commissioners may direct appeal process-related questions to the city attorney's office, but as the public hearing is closed, no other questions will be entertained. The board members may not cede time to proxies to speak or ask questions on their behalves. Please do not make any verbal outbursts. Once deliberations are completed, I will be asking for a motion to end deliberations and bring this matter to a roll call vote on this question. All those in favor of sustaining the appeal brought by the International Longshore and Warehouse Union and thereby deny the issuance of Coastal Development Permit number 1825 issued to APM Terminals, please respond by saying yes when your name is called. If you wish to vote to deny the appeal per staff's recommendation and thereby approve the issuance of the Coastal Development Permit 1825 to APM Terminal, please respond by saying no when your name is called. To clarify, a yes vote means rejecting the permit, a no vote means approving the permit. As a reminder, if this board should elect not to follow port staff's recommendation, please recall that the Master Plan Section 6.7.3 requires that all decisions related to permit applications shall be accompanied by written conclusions about the consistency with the Master Plan and the Coastal Act, as well as findings of fact and reasoning supporting the decision. A final note before we proceed: for a successful vote per the Port Master Plan, Section 6.7, a majority vote of the board members present are necessary. Abstentions are not counted as yes votes. A tie would not provide for a majority of those present, so the appeal would be denied and the CDP would stand as issued. Before we begin, I wanted to thank everyone for coming out today to express your opinions and support, everyone's diligence in this ongoing discussion, which are very much still underway and very productive. I believe it's easy to pigeonhole all of these constituent groups as adversarial or in opposition to one another. However, I urge everyone here to understand that we are a port community. We are partners between City Hall, our local council member's office, port staff, labor, the employers, and those of us sitting up here. None of us can function without the others. And so our fates are always intrinsically linked together. And we've worked tirelessly over these last few months to work towards a happy resolution for all of us in this community. So to begin the deliberation, I would like to ask each of the commissioners here in order as we normally go from left to right to give their impressions of the hearing that we observed, and if they wish to opine on their vote, they may. Commissioner Moreno-Linares.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to be here. I will be right up front with you, with our board and with our audience. Since this process began, it became clear that many issues are being condensed into one here. I, however, have to decide on the one issue of the CDP permit. I find that our executive director, Gene Siroka, acted properly and according to our master plan, and therefore I must support his decision and deny the appeal. Thank you. I actually expected you. There you go. And I appreciate that. And I mean that sincerely, not sarcastically. I think that we all must exercise our right to make our opinion known. We all have a duty to be informed. Sometimes we find things pushed to the end. While I deny the appeal, I am aware that this is the beginning of the process of automation at one of our locations. The issue of automation is not new. I urge the leadership in the union and the whole workforce, just like you showed up today, to remain engaged and to be a part of the process. I urge all the other partners, like APL, to be willing to work on this process so that there aren't surprises or last-minute requests. As for me, as part of the commission, I ask that our executive director start the process that we've discussed before on this dialogue that will deal with the issue of automation into the future. It isn't just one terminal. We have a lot of them. We cannot ignore the future. We don't have to wait for the future to hit us in the head. We can take steps to be prepared. It is most important for us, and as evidenced by the past 3 public meetings, the issue comes to a head here. I know that we have been working with the mayor's office, but you're not lobbying at the mayor's office. You're at our meeting. These issues are important to us here, and I look forward to working on that in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Peruzzi.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. It's very hard to hear you all, but I hope you can hear me. Give me one more. Yes, you can hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So for me, as I said from the beginning, I have viewed this process of compliance to the whole master plan. It is what I do for a living. I go from page to page, from beginning to end, and I look for compliance. For me, I feel as if we got to a point in the process where the application was not complete. It didn't name of any persons the applicant knows to be interested in the proposed development, which is required by the Port Master Plan 6.3, Section 6.3. Both the application for port permit and I believe the environmental form submitted by APM were non-compliant because they were not complete. And in my humble opinion, these non-compliances should have been addressed prior to even issuing the Level 1 CDP. There are similar requirements stated in the Port Master Plan Section 6.9, revocation as cause to revoke a previously granted CDP by the board as well. So I thoroughly reviewed the document. The other one is this definition of what surrounding environment means. It's not clear to many. And our interpretation says it should be a lot more clear in the Port Master Plan. And so for me, it appears that there is a opportunity to take a step back, update the PMP, go through a resubmit application process per PMP section 6.10 and get it right. And so for me at this point, I'm going to support the appeal.
Thank you.
That's where my opinion is at this point. And I think we need to take a step back and really ask ourselves when we talk about process, and following the process, as Commissioner Renwick always reminds us of, to make sure we are adhering to our process. To me, there are elements of process breakdown here, and I think this shines a light on it for me personally. I take this decision very seriously in my role as a commissioner, and again, I did not take it lightly. So those are my comments. And I look forward to the other comments of the other commissioners. Thank you.
Commissioner Renwick.
First of all, I want to thank all of you for coming today and on the other days. As an outsider to this community, I am always amazed at the passion and dedication of this community, so thank you. This is an incredibly difficult situation, for us on the board, because we have two very important partners arguing with each other. And we are, in some respects, caught in the middle of that argument. On one hand, we have the ILWU, which are legitimately concerned about the impact on jobs and of automation. And on the other hand, we have the terminal operator, who is legitimately concerned about trying to compete in an extremely competitive world. Over the last 10 years, we've lost 20% of our market share. And yes, we have record volumes now, but every year we are losing more and more boxes to other ports. And so they're legitimately concerned about that. You guys, the 99% of you are here, are legitimately concerned about your jobs and the jobs of your children and your nephews and nieces. Unfortunately, none of that is relevant to the decision that we have to make at hand. I am not an elected representative. I'm an appointed representative. As an appointed representative, my leeway is narrow. I have to follow the law. I am not allowed to change the law. Now that sounds like an easy cop-out, right? Vote with your heart. Don't hide behind the shadows of the law, right? And definitely that would be a fun thing to do. But we live in a country today where that is exactly what our president is doing. He's not following the law. And when he doesn't follow the law, and he's generally getting away with it, it's a terrible thing. Our system only works if we follow the law. The issue here is it's not, are jobs going to be impacted? It's not. I wish it was. It is not. The issue here is narrow. Did the procedures get appropriately followed? Is this a level 1 CDP? They're talking about putting in some battery plugs. They're talking about putting in some fencing. That is a level 1 CDP. Did Gene and the staff act appropriately? Yes. If I say otherwise, I am violating my oath to follow the law. Now, what can we do? What can we do to actually address your concern? What we can do is do what we should be doing as it pertains to stakeholder engagement. Specifically, we need to provide an environment where the ILWU and the company can talk and reach a fair agreement. When there was testimony here, the representatives of the ILWU said, our agreement is our agreement. Don't get in the middle of our agreement. I believe that is right. I cannot get in the middle of your agreement. But what we can do is create a situation so that the parties can discuss. And because of this issue, that is exactly what has been going on. I commend Councilman Joe Buscaino for his efforts. I commend the mayor for his efforts to bring the parties together and negotiate a way forward. Because end of day, this issue over automation does not hinge on today's vote. It hinges on the continued partnership between labor and management. And I encourage management to really focus on addressing these legitimate concerns and these issues. And part of the frustrating thing during the testimony and during the written documents that I saw was that in many cases, it struck me that the written documents were presented in a way to minimize information flow, to minimize trust building. These people want to know what the impact of your decisions are going to be on their jobs. The testimony that we have no idea was preposterous. You don't make investments without first putting together a business plan. You must have some ideas. So you need to talk to them. You need to share. That said, none of you are going to be happy with my vote. I am going to vote in support of the CDP and the Gene Soroka's decision because it's the law.
Commissioner Middleton.
Ready? Okay. I intend to vote to sustain the ILWU appeal and reject the permit. I would like to be sure to explain all of my reasoning for the record. CDP 1825 is not in conformity with the Port Master Plan, and CDP 1825 will have significant adverse environmental impacts. First, let us look at the guidelines for development permits. 6.3 of the Port Master Plan says applications require plans in sufficient detail to determine whether the proposed development complies with the plan. 1825 is vague and ambiguous in the following specific ways. And in the interest of time, let me say that we had a transcript of the public hearing, and rather than reading the comments from the public hearing, because there's a requirement that there be specific findings, I will refer to the pages of the transcript. First, APM has not done an analysis of the anticipated effects of employment. Transcript page 22. Commissioner Renwick, during the hearing at transcript 22, said he found it implausible that the employer would not have anticipated. He changed his opinion today to preposterous. I agree, preposterous. The application on its face states many unknowns. The estimated number of employees, it will vary, unknown. That's from the application. The number of new jobs, 0. There are 130 new machines. Mr. Oakes at transcript page 30 said he doesn't know if the new Strad carriers will be, quote, compatible with our terminal operating system. Next, and this all goes to the question of the unknowns in the application that supports why this application is not in conformance with the master plan. Mr. Herrera, transcript page 9, says from where will the automated equipment be controlled? Another state? A developing country? No answer. Questions have been raised about 5G. Is it Wi-Fi? Is it cellular? It appears that the Kalmar machines overseas run on 5G. What are the safety considerations? They have not been addressed. On page 15, there were many questions from commissioners, chiefly Commissioner Peruzzi, that the union absolutely does not have sufficient information to determine what APM plans to do at Pier 400. Neither do we. Next, I would like to address the question of Port Master Plan 6.42, and that is the nature of level 1 CDPs. It is said that they are minor in nature. Quote, they are determined to have insignificant impacts on the port or surrounding environment. Appellant Gary Herrera at transcript page 8, and this I will quote, says, transitioning to the largest terminal on the country's largest port to full automation will have a major and significant impact on the port and surrounding environment. This is not a level 1 CDP. It should be rejected. Next, I would like to address Section 1.3 of the Port Master Plan, which speaks to the objectives of the plan. At the public hearing, there were many comments about whether or not we commissioners can consider employment, and staff said that employment was not an element of the Coastal Act and shouldn't be considered. It is absolutely part of the Port Master Plan. As commissioners, we are here to examine whether or not this level 1 CDP is consistent with the Port Master Plan. Section 1.3 of the Port Master Plan says the objective, quote, is to integrate economic, engineering, environmental, and safety considerations into the port development process for measuring the long-term impact of varying development options on the port's natural and economic environment. How many times does it have to say economic? This is a major economic issue. Further, the Port Master Plan says at Section 3.21 that development should minimize conflicts. 11,000 people signed petitions. Hundreds of letters were produced from businesses, protests from politicians. This is conflict with our stakeholders, the community and local business and the politicians that are concerned with their overall well-being. Next, Section 3.22 says the Port Master Plan seeks to increase cargo terminal efficiency. Testimony at the public hearing indicated that the McKinsey & Company report says production with automation drops. There is no dispute. At transcript page 62, Ray Familetti stated, TRAPAC was a debacle. Now, I'd like to speak about the port's economic interests, and for a moment, let's leave aside the fact that APM has 484 acres and a minimum annual guarantee of $70 million a year, which is $144,628 per acre. LBCT has a 40-year lease, and on 200 acres, they pay the Port of Long Beach $270,000 per acre. So it looks like what the Port of LA should be doing is seeking to maximize our return and make up for that tremendous discrepancy in rent. But we're not going to do that. Here's what the testimony is. Currently, containers are stacked 6 wide and 6 high. The planned autostrads, per the testimony of Mark Jurassic at transcript page 61, only allows for stacking containers 3 wide and 3 high. Capacity is cut in half. Revenue to the port is based on the minimum annual guarantee plus additional sums based on TEUs. In 2017, the port received $70 million in rent plus $10 million over the minimum annual guarantee based on the TEUs moved. Revenue lost to Polo will be millions of dollars. This is not a good decision for the Port of LA. It's not a good. It's not a good business decision for the Port of LA. What about productivity? I already referenced the McKinsey report. Transcript page 17, Mr. Herrera states that at TRAPAC they achieved 17 moves per hour. Tremendous reduction. Mr. Oakes at transcript page 32 says there will be no increase in capacity. Why are they doing this? Well, we'll get to that. Now, that's the Port Master Plan. What else is there for us to consider? I believe it is important, and I'm not going to give up on talking about the social compact. Commissioner Renwick, and I respect the opinions of all the commissioners. Commissioner Renwick talks about following the law. We have different opinions. I've stated what I believe the Port Master Plan, which really isn't the law, it's guidelines, but that's all the defects in the Port Master Plan and the way that this application doesn't comport. Now let's talk about something else. Our job as commissioners under the Tideland Trust is to represent all the people of the state and protect their interests in port property. Pier 400 belongs to the people of the state of California. It is not a medieval fiefdom for APM to enforce its will. The port tenants make money. The community, small business, the workers must share the bounty and must be protected from the harmful effects of port operation. Years ago, there was considerable debate about the development of the Costco terminal because there was concern about clean air. If we were concerned about clean air, how can we not be concerned about the survival of the people of this community? The issue today is social and economic justice. Environmental impacts absolutely must include the decimation of the workforce, and that's what we are talking about. Testimony at the public hearing was that when the Ben Franklin called, there was record tonnage, and it was due to the efforts of the LWU. Mr. Herrera at the transcript, page 12, said at TRAPAC in Middle Harbor, there is absolutely a loss of jobs and loss of efficiency. This isn't mythical. It's there. Mr. Oakes testified that automatic Strad carriers could be ordered with a cab, with an operator. But Oakes testified that it is, quote, essential they be unmanned to allow us to remain competitive, transcript page 26. And that means eliminating longshore labor, transcript page 32. Now, the final point I'd like to make is the political and legislative consequences of what we are doing. We commissioners are political appointees. There is no getting around that. We serve at the pleasure of the mayor. This struggle, and it is a struggle, and people have said, oh, that's a call to arms, that's an outrageous term. No, it's a struggle. This is a battle for survival of our community. APM, for which we should be grateful, has set into motion statewide and national consequences. Yes, the Board of Harbor Commissioners is independent, but we live in the real world. Every politician, from the governor to the supervisor to our city council representative and every level of legislator, has expressed concern about this permit and the possibility of widespread job loss. Every comment has seen through APM's facade of clean air. They use the same battery-operated Strads. They're starting as hybrids, of course, but with a cab. That's what it could be. They're not agreeing to that. Discussion of this brings us to the question of the need to amend the Tidelands Trust Act and the possibility of prohibiting fully automated terminals on port land. I am not opposed to technology, simply the thoughtless implementation that does not learn from past mistakes. And there have been past mistakes. So what do we need to move forward? The commissioners have already expressed opinions, but we're here for deliberation. And I hope that this will cause everyone to reconsider before that final vote. Here is what we need. Ray Familetti at transcript 62. First of all, we need more facts. Ray Familetti at transcript 62 said, before approving this CDP, we need impact reports, commenting on the possible need for mitigation of adverse effects on labor, the community, and the surrounding habitats. Now, we're not going to get into what legal cases say, but there is something to be said about if there's a report possible, why aren't we doing it? Is it perhaps that we know what the results will be and we don't want more evidence? Because if not, why are we afraid of an economic impact report? Let's get it. Let's put that issue to rest. Secondly, we need more transparency on the part of APM. This is not a carnival shell game. It's the future of our town. We need more thought about artificial intelligence and the difference between labor-saving and labor-replacing technology. We need more time to accomplish all this. We know that there is a procedure whereby the City Council can appeal a decision of our commission if they are not in agreement with it. I don't want that to happen. I want to get this right. I have confidence in Mr. Soroka. I have confidence in the Porla staff. And I have confidence that our Board of Harbor Commissioners can do this and get it right. I see a vote to sustain the appeal filed by the ILWU and deny the issuance of the CDP as our board doing its job and saying we need more answers from APM, we need a level 2 application, we need an economic feasibility study, we need a task force on automation, and eventually then, hopefully we will approve a permit that will move this port forward, but this is not it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners, for all of your input. Our duty today as fiduciaries of these coastal lands is to judge the appeal on the merits, within the narrow scope of the question at hand that is legally permitted to us. Does this permit and its issuance comply with our port master plan? I believe it does. Examples of level 1 coastal development permit work includes minor grading, paving, lighting, fencing, installation of structures, modular office buildings, storage buildings, restroom facilities, floating docks, demolition of wharves, buildings, tanks, or exterior equipment, removal of pipelines, major building renovations. I don't believe that there is anything within the scope of the work considered by APM that would raise it to the level of a level 2 coastal development permit. In addition, for level 1 permits, the executive director has the designated authority to issue or deny these permits per the application. There is no requirement for the CDP to check every box and to fill every line. Commissioner Peruzzi alluded to some deficiencies which he believed of information that had not been included. Per the testimony that we heard in the hearing, that was addressed by Mike DiBernardo as not deficient because because this work has nothing to do with the soil, and the fence is not at all touching the soil. It's not our job here to opine on whether or not this is a good business decision or a good investment from APM. That's not the question before us. The question before us is, does this comply? There is no requirement in a level 1 CDP to create jobs. There is also no requirement or a bar for losing jobs. The term environment was also raised as the definition per the Port Master Plan and under CEQA law as testified by Port environmental staff, CEQA counsel, and the City Attorney's Office. Social environment is not a factor to be considered. It is not an element of CEQA, and these specific laws attribute specific definitions to the term environment. In addition, on page 4 of the Port Master Plan, as Commissioner Middleton did not read the following section, which states that port tenants should be encouraged to modernize their facilities and implement new technologies, including automated container terminal technology. The question before us is whether or not this work and the permit was issued consistent with the plan. It is not up to us today here to opine on automation itself, although our current Port Master Plan provides for it. It has been clear with the discussions that we've been having throughout this process since January that it is incredibly important for this board and this department to engage in the policy discussion of automation, the future impacts it has not only on our communities, but work throughput, efficiencies, quality of investment, and the ability for this port to remain as competitive as we can on the global stage in a rapidly changing global commercial market. But as we've stated before, that is not the question that is before us today. It really is whether or not the executive director properly approved this permit according to the plan as it stands today. And I find that it does, and so my vote would be to deny the appeal. It seems that the commissioners today have been very clear. Are you guys ready to vote? Okay. You ready to vote? It seems the commissioners do not need any additional information in order to proceed with their votes, and thus I would call for a motion to end the deliberations and to ask for a vote.
I so move.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Oh, we have a motion to conclude the deliberations and proceed to a roll call vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? That motion carries. Amber, please call for a roll call vote.
Commissioner Middleton.
Commissioner Middleton.
Commissioner Middleton. Can we please keep it quiet during the vote, please?
I vote to sustain the appeal, reject the CDP, so I vote yes.
Commissioner Moreno Linares,
I vote no to deny the appeal, and I support the issuance of the permit.
quiet, please. Commissioner Renwick,
I vote no to deny, I vote to deny the appeal, and I vote to support the CDP. So I believe that means my vote is no.
Commissioner Peruzzi, are you on the line with us?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Commissioner Peruzzi, are you on the line with us?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Commissioner Peruzzi,
I vote yes to reject the CDP.
President Lee,
No. The appeal is denied. The commission has voted 3-2. This concludes this hearing. Thank you.